the EDL support team presents a non-graphic guide to halal meat in the UK. The issue of halal meat has been of interest to the public in recent times for many reasons. One reason being the fact that it's sneakily being sold all over the country without the knowledge of the general public. Why is it that the biggest supermarkets refuse to label this type of meat, even when faced with many complaints and protests? As always, some things are more complicated than they may seem, and this video will attempt to present the facts on halal meat, what it is, how it's produced, and more importantly, how it's distributed and sold. So, what is halal meat? When halal meat is mentioned, most people already know that it's meat eaten by Muslims, but what is it that makes the meat halal? Simply put, it's meat taken from an animal that's been prepared following the guidelines given by Islamic scripture. The animal is slaughtered in a certain fashion, and a prayer is said to Allah for every animal killed. Some people will tell you that there's a difference in taste and or quality, but this is in fact nothing but a myth. To understand the issue fully, we must explain what the word halal actually means. Halal is an Arabic word which simply means lawful or permitted, and this can be applied to anything, not just meat. Anything that is not lawful or not permitted is called haram. Not all Muslims agree on what constitutes halal meat, which is why this subject can get a little confusing. They all use the same book for guidance, the Quran, but for some reason come up with different answers, and so here we'll try to detail the most common thoughts on the subject. The first part of the process is the actual selection and killing of the animal, and this brings us to the first point under debate. In the UK we have laws regarding animal welfare. Our laws say that all animals should be stunned before slaughter to spare the animal any unnecessary pain and suffering. The whole idea is to render the animal unconscious so that it feels no pain when it is killed, and there are many methods of stunning such as the captive bolt gun or simple electrocution. The rules for halal meat are somewhat different, and UK law does make allowances for religious slaughter to accommodate our Muslim and Jewish communities. The Jewish religion also has requirements for how its meat should be killed, and this is very similar to halal meat in many ways. This type of meat is called kosher. The majority of Muslims agree that an animal should be healthy and alive at the point of slaughter. Some Muslims say that an animal should not be stunned and that the animal should be fully conscious when it's killed, and there are a number of reasons for this viewpoint. The Jewish community also believes that the animal should not be stunned, although they do not bless the meat during the slaughtering process. There are other differences too, but in both cases the animal is killed with a single cut to the neck from a sharp knife. The Farm Animal Welfare Council report, which was commissioned by the government, has concluded that slaughter without pre-stunning does cause the animals to suffer more. This should be common sense. The truth of the matter is that all kosher meat produced in the UK is not stunned, whereas the Darwell project shows in its latest report that approximately 90% of halal meat is. The reason that most halal meat is stunned is because some Muslims argue that stunning an animal is actually okay so long as the animal is alive and healthy before being slaughtered. For this reason, a common method of stunning in halal slaughter is a low voltage electric shock. This method uses a lower voltage to stun the animal so that it doesn't feel the pain when its throat is cut, and also ensures the animal is not killed, which would render it haram and contaminate the halal food chain. Also, some Muslims are happy to consume normally stunned meat so long as it's been blessed during the slaughter. Despite all the dietary requirements that Muslims need, many Muslims believe that they are allowed to eat non-halal meat when in non-Islamic countries such as the UK. They are of course encouraged to eat halal meat, but look at this quote from their scripture. This is not the same for Jews, where the vast majority of Orthodox authorities state that only kosher meat should be eaten. If it's not available, then meat shouldn't be eaten at all. The Jewish community accounts for approximately 0.5% of the UK population, and for kosher meat they have specialist kosher butchers. Not all parts of an animal are considered to be kosher though, and so as much as 2/3 of an animal is sold onto the open market. The Muslim community in the UK is around 4%, and so you'd be forgiven for thinking that halal meat would also be found in specialist butchers for such a small minority, but this is simply not true. The fact is, if you live in the UK and eat meat, chances are you've already consumed halal meat many times whether you knew it or not. This is simply because many companies supply halal meat without telling us. Let's take a look at some well-known companies who admit to supplying halal meat, in almost all cases without informing their customers. This is by no means an extensive list, simply a list of the companies that have been mentioned many times in the mainstream media. Asda, for instance, refused to comment for many months before finally admitting that much of their meat is halal. Even government organisations such as schools and hospitals now only supply halal meat. Even some larger companies have been caught unawares in the halal debate. McDonald's was asked by the Mail on Sunday newspaper if it used halal, and McDonald's denied any use of halal products. They later had to issue this statement. As you can see, even huge companies such as McDonald's with 1,200 British outlets have been caught unawares. What is all the fuss really about? Why are so many people complaining about halal meat flooding the market? Isn't meat just meat no matter how it's killed? Well, to put it bluntly, no, it isn't. You see, halal meat only remains halal while Islamic law is adhered to all the way down the line from the slaughterhouse to the dinner plate. When companies produce halal meat, it can't be processed alongside other products, and so suppliers would need two completely separate areas to provide halal as well as non-halal. For this reason, it's simply more cost-effective to switch solely to halal production, seeing as there's no law against selling halal meat to non-Muslims. If the meat is prepared in the same area as something that is haram, it also becomes haram. For this reason, any outlet that presents a halal menu can't contain other certain products, and this is something that all Muslims agree on. If you visit a restaurant that has a halal menu, you'll be unable to choose items such as pork, sausage and bacon. If your children go to a school with a halal menu, they'll only be able to eat what is allowed by the Islamic faith. This is what is known today as creeping Sharia, where Muslim traditions and laws are given more consideration than any other culture. The halal food industry is worth billions worldwide, and recently CBN News discovered that some of this money makes its way into the hands of groups such as the Muslim Brotherhood, a worldwide organisation linked with terrorism. There are many organisations out there that certify halal meat, and they all charge a fee for their services. This fee often includes what is called zakat, a charitable donation which is usually spent on Muslim charities and causes, such as the building and upkeep of mosques. The problem is, it's not uncommon for a percentage of these funds to make its way into the hands of the more violent Islamic groups. A reporter interviewed by CBN, Alexander Duvall, claims that experts estimate that almost 60% of halal food is controlled by organisations belonging to the Muslim Brotherhood. That's something we should all consider the next time we visit the supermarket. Now, nobody is saying that Muslims should not have access to halal meat, but at the same time, Islam is not the only religion in this country. In fact, Islam is dwarfed by the Christian population, and then we have other religious cultures such as Hindus, Jews and Sikhs, all of whom according to their religious laws are unable to eat halal meat because it's been dedicated to another god or idol. This is not a problem with kosher meat, as kosher meat isn't blessed. We would expect UK law to treat all religions equally, but unfortunately, it's just not true. Only recently have there been complaints featured in the media where people have found out that they've been served halal meat without being told. There was even uproar in the House of Commons itself when our MPs found out that they were unknowingly being served halal meat. Various government research groups have been recommending that meat should be properly labelled since way back in 1985, but no one's taking any notice. Compare this to cases such as the young Muslim boy who mistakenly took a bite out of a sausage roll due to a package labelling error. The case gained national media headlines and a promise of investigation from his local MP, and yet non-Muslims are being fed halal meat without their knowledge every single day. Now that we've looked into the issue and have a few facts to work with, let's look at the numbers involved. Unfortunately, we can't find any up-to-date statistics, and so we have to look back to the MHS Animal Welfare Review, which was published in March 2004. Let's first look at the figures for kosher meat instead of halal. Here we have a chart that shows the number of animals slaughtered in the UK for the kosher meat market in a single week. Now, we have to consider the size of the Jewish population, which has been estimated to be around 280,000 at the time of the report, or 0.5% of the UK population. Instead of using the figures from the report, let us first estimate what we'd expect the number for halal meat to be. Assuming that the Jewish and Muslim communities eat roughly the same amounts of meat on an individual basis, it would be fair to multiply these figures by 8 to give a representation for 4% of the population, so this is what we should expect the figures to be. Let's take a look at the next chart for the actual figures from the MHS report. Shocking isn't the word. There is much more halal meat being produced compared to what is required, as these charts clearly show. Just looking at the figures for poultry, if we subtract the expected figure from the actual, we can see that an unbelievable 1.8 million halal birds are being sold to non-Muslims in only 1 week.
This chart shows the figures for the kosher meat market. We already know that 90% of halal meat is pre-stunned, and that figure alone makes us think that 10% isn't so bad. Again, let's compare the numbers. As you can see, even that 10% of halal meat that isn't stunned is still almost 5.5 times bigger than the entire kosher market.
In real terms then, how does this growing influence of Islamic culture in the UK affect us? The UK is currently going through a tough patch. We're facing cuts in all sectors, unemployment is a major problem, and we look to our elected government to deal with these problems, yet in recent years we've seen them make some head-scratching decisions. The Office for National Statistics reports that the group with the highest rate of unemployment in 2004 were Muslim. With so many people unemployed, it would be expected for our government to come up with some sort of back-to-work initiative, free training, anything to get those out of work back into the labour market. So what did they actually do? One clever idea was to import another 5,000 halal butchers from Pakistan. Does this make sense to anyone watching this video? When we have a large population that is out of work, we should create jobs and train those who are out of work to do those jobs, not import more people. That is simply common sense. There are plans to build a new halal industrial estate located in Wales, which may create between 3,000 to 5,000 jobs, specifically to deal with the booming market in halal meat. Who do you think will get those 3,000 to 5,000 jobs? It's already been stated by the developers that Wales was chosen as the location because of the Muslim communities in the area, so we'll leave you to make your own mind up on that one. So what do we want? We're asking for meat to be clearly labelled so that everyone can make an informed choice on what they buy. As has already been mentioned, some government advisors have been recommending this for over 25 years, and in November 2010 the government position was summarised by Lord Henley. For over 25 years, successive governments in the UK have thought it worth considering, but they've still done nothing. So what can we do to change things? Complain, constantly. Contact your local MP, ask them why nothing is being done, demand that they listen to you and represent you as they're paid to do. We need to give people freedom of choice in equal measure, no matter what their religion. If all meat was clearly labelled as to how it was slaughtered and or blessed, it would be in everyone's interests. Muslims would be assured that they are eating true halal meat, and other religions would be assured that they are not. Clear labelling is a simple step forward that would solve many arguments. Give the end consumers the choice and let their buying power be the deciding factor. The suppliers will bend to whatever the market demands. That's simple economics. The buyers shape the market. The market does not shape the buyer, which is what we see happening today. The sad fact is that even if our government did decide to bring in a new law, it would take up to and possibly more than 5 years to bring into force. But there is a quicker way to see results. The supermarkets have the buying power. Get in touch with them as well. Email them, telephone them. Keep complaining until the changes happen. If just one of the major UK supermarkets told their suppliers to label the meat, it would happen in weeks without the law needing to be pushed through. We've provided contact links for all the major supermarkets involved at the end of this video. Please get in touch with them. We hope you found this video to be informative and hope we can count on your support. We sincerely hope that all animals will soon be stunned before slaughter, and we hope that we can add to the pressure to ensure that all UK meat is properly labelled. To do this we need your help, and so we encourage you to join us in our campaign. Thanks for watching.